Okay, so looking at the form of your answer, I'm betting you use the quadratic formula because you have that 2 down there rather than completing the square. I don't love the form of their answer either. This 54 should actually be simplified, but I'll show that when I do it. If you did use the quadratic formula on this, you did a lot of extra work. If this value right here is 1 and this value is even, it's so much easier to complete the square. So let me show you that method. So what we do to complete the square is we're trying to get to here, a squared plus or minus, depending on that sign right there, 2ab plus b squared. So what we do is we assume we have something of this form, and then we figure out what that number right here would have to be so that this will factor down to a plus or minus, depending on the sign, b squared, because then I can use roots to solve. So what we have to do is undo the 2, so we say half of 14 would be 7, and then we square it, because it's the b, to get the b squared. So half of 14 is 7, and then square that and add it to both sides. So 7 squared would be 49, and I'll add the 49 to both sides. And again, all I'm doing with that step is forcing these two terms into that form. Even if you don't quite follow me here, it's literally just half of the middle term and then square it, add it to both sides. If this middle term is an odd number, this method is terrible and hard and awful because you get fractions everywhere, and I never use it when that's an odd. But if this is 1 and this is even, this is a much easier method to use than quadratic formula on this particular problem, though they should get the same answer. Okay, so then we're going to do our factor. We're going to get x minus 7. That's what we're trying to do. That's where we were trying to complete that square. And then that equals the 54, which is what they got. And then what we would do from there is we would undo the root. That's where the plus or minus comes in. So now we have x minus 7 equals plus or minus square root of 54, and then we add the 7 over. And then that's where they stopped. But this 54 here is really 9 times 6, and so we should simplify that 9 out of there. So the proper answer would be square root of 9 would bring out a 3 out front and leave a root 6 on the inside. So that would be, to me, the easiest way to go about doing that one. If I did it by completing the square, I would get the same answer, but the math would be a lot harder. I think I'm going to pass on showing that because this is really such the better way to do it. But the other way, you'll get large numbers of the radical that you have to simplify out. I believe this should have a 6 in front, and then you would have to simplify that 2 into the 7 and the 6, and you'll get to that same answer. That said, this is a much easier road if the number in front is 1 and that number is even.